Okay, I've got 7:03. I'm sorry that I run a little late here today. It's 11 April, Tuesday, 11 April 2023. This is your Zoom session for LDR 440. What are we here? Week 5, 6? Week 6, aren't we? Okay, so going by fast. We're more than halfway through this. Everybody's doing well. Last week was very insightful. Appreciate everybody's comments. You should see my screen here. I'm trying to control it here a little bit with my touchpad instead of the mouse. So you should see your Moodle page with the text on it. This is again leading change. Our textbook throws you a curveball by saying managing organizational change. But again, we covered this in week 1, where we're talking about the difference between leading and managing. Remembering that managing is the activities which are used to bring order to chaos. It is those activities that make a organization work. And then leading a change, which is the realm of the leader, in this case, you, that provides the vision and the direction for which way the organization is going. Okay, let me see if I can't get my camera back. There we go. And again, let's go ahead and take a look at what we got coming up. I've sent you all the rubric for your week 7 paper, so you should be actively, working towards that. Tonight, I will send you the scoring rubric for the week 8 paper, or I'll probably send that out later this week. I'll send that out later this week so I don't confuse. Okay, but you've got the write-up in Moodle and in your assignment instructions and in your syllabus. So everybody should have no questions regarding what that paper is about. But I will go there right now just to make sure you can find where it's at. So if you go to the week 7 tile, week 7 starting on Monday, the 17th of April, click on that tile, and then you will find the norm, which is your leader or discussion forum for that week. And a couple really good questions. These are going to take some work from you. Okay, so make sure you give yourself some time. But these require some insight, knowing what your sense-making approach is. Excuse me for taking a drink of water there. And these are the sense-making of you that you've already looked at earlier, back in week 3 or 4, when we did the exercise to find out what change image you most identify with. And again, you all understand that change is contingency. Okay, just as we teach contingency leadership, in other words, the tools that we apply are based on the situation. One tool does not fit all. Pick the right tool to get the right results we want. Sometimes it is better to be a directive type of leader, particularly if you're a first responder and you need to get people out of a burning building rapidly. And we don't tend to use laissez-faire leadership in that regard. We're more directive. And then there's other times when that laissez-faire leadership approach is best. Let people work through the issue. Again, depending on the results that you're looking for. That's why we say leadership is an art and a science. Leadership is an art because it's up to you to interpret the situation and identify the brush strokes, if you will, using the comparison to a painting artist. And then using your toolkit. Those tools in that toolkit is the science part. We now have a body of studies, a body of work. We have models, we have theories, we have certain rules, if you will, that we can apply and use in a situation to hopefully get the results that we want. We understand path goal theory, where we're there to get the obstacles out of the way of our subordinates. We understand Herzberg's two-factor theory, which factors into change because hygiene factors can cause resistance to change, and you need to address those before any of your motivation factors will kick in. If I am concerned about my family's well-being because we sleep on the street, then you're giving me a nice parking spot out front for the month of being the employee of the month probably isn't going to motivate me much. So, an extreme example. All right. So then what we do is we want to get into why organizations fail. And you're to look at table 10.1. There are 16 responses on why changes fail. And I want you to get 3 to 5 reasons that one response that you picked can make change fail. In other words, you pick one of the 16 and then give me 3 to 5. So if you pick divert attention and resources, then one reason that you can give that change will fail is because you have to give people the resources. Remember, a vision without resources is an hallucination. If you have given people a task, then it is up to you to properly resource them so that they can accomplish that task. Many of you have been in situations where you've been told to do something and you weren't given the adequate resources, the adequate authorities, the adequate backing and funding or whatever in order to accomplish the task. And you know how frustrating that is. Okay. Also, if you divert attention and resources, people then might say you've committed the crime of distraction. Okay. You might have just yelled out squirrel or bright, shiny object. Okay. And if you're diverting attention and resources from one change to another, then people may tend to question what it is that you actually are trying to accomplish. All right. Anyway, so those are your forum discussion. And you do have a quiz that week. Right. Quizzes open up at noon on Wednesdays. They close on Sundays at 1500. And sure, when you're taking your quiz, make sure you give yourself plenty of time, at least an hour. So don't begin the quiz at 14:30 expecting a full hour. You're not going to get it. You're going to get a half hour because the quiz closes at 3 at 1500. So keep that in mind when you're taking a quiz. Best thing is try to do it before Sunday. Okay. All right. And then as always, if you have any issues posting your forum discussion, if you have issues taking the quiz, if there's something occurring, then by all means communicate with me and we'll try to work through that. Okay. So I'm not seeing anybody join us as yet. So we'll continue on. Let's go ahead and talk about that week 7 paper. On the screen, you can see personal change project paper. This one paper is worth 30% of your grade. The other paper, week 8, is worth 30% of your grade. So these two papers are the majority of what your grade will be based on. So let's give it the proper attention. The first paper, week 7, is a personal change project. By the week 8 paper, which is an organizational change project. Okay, so for the week 7 paper, personal change project, you're to grab a personal change, meaningful, that you want to make, and then go through each of these 8 steps. Make sure you address each of the 8. Sure that your paper has a proper introduction, a proper conclusion as always. I highly recommend that you use paragraph headers to identify each of your paragraphs, introduction, each of the 8 that are on the screen, okay, as paragraph headers, because that, and then of course the final paragraph header, a conclusion, right? Yeah, this concluding paragraph has to be strong because that's what you last leave your reader. And understanding also that the I'm sorry, the share screen closed down for some reason. Um, hmm. For some reason, the got kicked off. Okay, so we're back here. I'm sorry on that. I don't know what happened. There was a little glitch, um, but it's 7:16. All right. So what we do is we take a look at each of these eight that you have to do on your paragraphs, and that is you do personal meaningful change that you want to make. You want to clearly articulate your vision, okay, which is the desired future state of that change. You want to explain the forces driving the change. In other words, what's making you do this? And then we want to see what possible barriers to making the change there are. Then what we need to do is we need to talk through the personal strengths and weaknesses that affect your change effort. And we want to talk through why you have resisted this change and may resist it in the future. We go in there from there to developing the strategy that you want to do to accomplish that change. And then what we want to do is we want to influence others to support that change. All right, so there should be no question as to what we have on this paper. And we want to make sure that if there's any additional information you want to put in there, certainly do so. In this aspect and in all aspects, the more you can reference from your text, what you've learned from your text, is the better. All right. So what you do is make sure that you go through and take a look at what is in the text, what it tells you about, for example, resistance of change, barriers, and try to apply some of those. By all means, if you have given me, and you should have, your change image, then what you should do is reference that within the framework of your, I'm sorry, your framework of, let me hold this just for a second. All right, so then what you do is make sure that you've got this figured out and you go ahead and round out your paper. Again, this is for you. And although I'm reading it and I look forward to reading it, I'll read each of your papers 3 times and it is 30% of your rate. All right, again, there's the week 7 quiz. It will cover chapters 9 and 10 of your text. You normally have 45 minutes. You get 1 attempt. When you take the quiz, make sure you're not interrupted. And then what you do is go on from there to make sure that you finish all your work. Let's go ahead and continue on. 7:21, I had to take a quick pause there. Sorry. What we want to do is make sure that you give yourself enough time to take the quiz. Preferably try to do it before Sunday. Don't wait till the last minute, just in case there's a glitch or other internet issue. And as always, your week 7 PowerPoint presentations for chapters 9 and 10 are there at the links provided. Tomorrow is Wednesday, so you will be posting your responses to the 2 questions up here. As you go through, remember the earlier graph I gave you in week 2, and noting the difference between an organization development approach and the sense-making approach. Okay, and so you're going to go through and understand the difference between those, which is the best approach if I'm going to use a coach image, which is the best approach if I'm going to use an interpreter image, and why. Okay, so this is not a scavenger hunt. This is going to require you to read the text and understand what's been presented to you, and then be able to apply that information based on the questions that I've given. Remember, coach pressures for change are constant. and result in a need to develop and shape the organization's capabilities. Think of a head coach for a professional football team or a college football team, or a track team or a softball team or a women's soccer team, you name it. Okay. Pressures for change require the manager, okay, to also understand um, what is going on and provide meaning to that. Okay. The leader, again, is the one providing the vision. Okay. So you make changes to assist in clarity, turn to help align identity and commitment to the organization. Right. So you take this and then apply it. Okay. So there should be no question on that. This is a very good question. I'm excited to see what you all come up with. But again, take your time on it. Okay. Some of you are sometimes rushing your answers, and you can tell, and I can tell. All right. When you go through, give some thought to these questions and then provide an answer. Okay. By all means, answer the question. Last week, we had a little bit of a challenge. Okay. Last week, when we were looking at, and again, that would be week 5. Let me show you real fast what happened. All right. So the question result was as part of vision. Okay. Table 6.3 identified what a number of authors view as key elements of a good vision. Okay. And what I wanted you to do is specifically use Cotter's portion from that table. All right. In other words, is the vision statement feasible, attainable, desirable? Okay. Um, those are the framework words that Cotter was using. I didn't mean for you to use Cotter's 8-step process, which is something distinctly different. It's related, certainly. Okay. But what we were doing is taking what Cotter had to say about vision, that framework, particularly which is in table 6.4. Okay. And then assess the University of Mount Olive's vision statement against those 6 specific characteristics that Cotter used. Again, feasibility, desirability, um, and the like. Okay. Uh, most of you did okay on that. A couple of you missed it because you didn't use what Cotter's framework was. You try to use, again, the Cotter's 8-step process. And that's not what the question asked you. Okay. Now, I do give credit where I can when I see what you've done. All right. Instead of giving you a big fat 0. In other words, the only way you fail my course or get a 0 in this course is if you fail to turn in an answer. Okay. Even a wrong answer is going to give you some credit. Okay. But you're not going to pass with that. In other words, you still get some credit, but it may not be a very decent score. Again, because think of any work atmosphere. If you do the wrong work, don't expect to be paid or rewarded for it. Right. Okay. So again, what we want to do is make sure that we're answering the question. Okay. Okay. So give you all a heads up that the rest of the course, okay, week 7 and week 8 occur as scheduled. There will be no changes to that. You have here we go. Week went into week 7, right? Monday 17th, and then week 8, 24th of April to 30 April. Okay. All right. Now, what's interesting is I've been scheduled to teach LDR 300 in the next session, which is summer session 2nd. Excuse me, went down the wrong pipe. Sorry about that. Went down the wrong pipe. Okay, so I'm scheduled to teach LDR 300. Many of you are going to go on to other courses. Remember that the May term will not start on 1st of May. In other words, it won't start on the 8th of May. The next term is going to start on Friday, the 12th of May. And it's going to go until Thursday, the 22nd of June, and it is a 6-week term. Okay. So 6 weeks starting on a Friday. That you need to be very aware of and be very flexible on, because that will change obviously a lot of battle rhythms and when and how you're doing your homework. So be attentive to that major change that's occurring. Now, this is a one-time deal. The University of Mount Olive is going to a 6-week program for its non-traditional. So courses in the future will all be 6 weeks. This isn't unusual. We did this prior to 2019, if I recall correctly. I can look it up on my biography, but we used to teach a 5-week term, which was very challenging. Okay, you couldn't miss a single night, and you had to have your textbook that week one, otherwise you were woefully behind and you weren't going to catch up. So going to this 8-week program was nice in that regard, but now we're going to go back to a 6. Okay. Now, why we're starting on a Friday, I can't answer that. I'm not the dean. I'm not the president. I just execute what we've been given. But I think it involves having to time things into the graduation. There's some probably financial aid issues in there, and timing for the rest of the year. So suffice it to say that next term is going to be a bit of a challenge because it's shorter and it starts on a Friday. From there, what we want to do is get into an aspect of making sure that you're reading, what's in the syllabus. Again, remember at the start of every course, you're asked to specifically read the syllabus and acknowledge that you have, and ask any questions that you may have of me, your instructor. And those go in that week one. And most of you did that. And I appreciate that. Okay. But there's a reason for having you do that. Plus, I post all your information here on Moodle. You can see it laid out by week. And I also give you a weekly instruction that I send out to you. Usually I post on Thursdays. It goes into the announcements and it lays out what you've got going on this week and then what's coming up. A lot of information, certainly, but it's all the same. And so if you tell me that you didn't realize that a quiz stopped at a certain time, or there was a certain question that was asked and you didn't answer it, that gets to be frustrating because you've got it in 3 different places. So make sure you take the time, read through what the instructor has given you, and then if there's any questions, by all means, ask. Remember, I also give you a forum up here to ask a question that allows a fellow student to answer, or I will answer. Okay, and your screen should show it. I'll ask for help forum. All right, which should allow you to see anybody having an issue in the question. As you can see, nobody's asked a question in this course the entire time. Now, I'm smiling a little bit because that's not true. A lot of you have, but you came straight to me and then I responded. Don't forget your fellow students sometimes may have the same question. So what I try to do is encourage you to use this. And if you see something on here from a fellow student that you know the answer to, then please, answer it into the discussion topic, join in. Okay. Every instructor appreciates that help. Okay. Particularly for those of you students that are doing well and helping those that may be having a challenge. Okay. Okay. From there, in late June, I will teach LDR 360, which is your innovation course, and then LDR 490. So I'll be teaching 2 courses at the same time. LDR 490 is your leadership capstone, which is a great course that takes into account profit and nonprofit organizations, and we will go through the readings on those. You don't have a textbook for 490. Your textbook is the instruction you've already received from LDR 300 all the way through your matriculation here at the University of Mount Olive. So you are expected to take the readings we have, which is a book by Bill Marriott on the Marriott organization, and a book by Brown, who was the head of Salvation Army for many years. And so you've got a for-profit and a not-for-profit organizations that we're going to read through and then go through a series of teaching points. And that becomes more of a Socratic method because you're going to do most of the talking on that. That's you're going to instruct most of each other. Okay, I'm going to help more facilitate discussion because at this point, you've been given a wide body of textbook and lectured or otherwise delivered instruction. And now it's time to apply it in your capstone course, LDR 490. So great things are expected, and I'm sure you all are up for the challenge and are looking forward to it as much as I am. If you're not taking LDR 490, take a look at it again because I think you'd really enjoy it. It is got very little homework, okay, but that paper, the final paper in LDR 490, is worth half of your grade, so it's still very important. Okay, so I've got 7:35. I had to take a few minutes there as my system got a little glitchy, and I hope this comes through okay. As always, these are posted on YouTube, and they are also uh, posted here on Moodle. Let me get there. So you see where we say, okay, weekly office hours Zoom sessions is where I will post this video. All right. Okay. Thank you all very much for your attention and keep charging. Real pleasure having you in class, and we'll speak to you later. Bye for now.